In one of London's most private neighborhoods, Stephen Fry lives a life that reveals almost nothing about his fortune. No flashy displays, just carefully guarded privacy purchased through decades of turning intellect, language, and curiosity into tens of millions of dollars. Today's story explores the quiet lifestyle behind that success. But before we step inside Fry's private London home, we need to understand the unconventional career decisions that built this level of wealth in the first place. Born Stephen John Fry on August 24, 1957 in Hampstead, London, he grew up in a family shaped by brilliance and trauma. His father worked as an inventor and physicist. His mother was deeply cultured, and his great-grandparents were murdered in Nazi concentration camps during the Holocaust, a history that left Fry intensely aware of language, identity, and moral responsibility from a young age. Childhood, however, was far from orderly. Despite passing his O-levels at just 14, he struggled. With discipline and direction, and as a teenager, he served 3 months in prison for using a stolen credit card, a moment that could have permanently derailed his future. Instead, it became a turning point. After studying at City College, Norwich, Fry earned a scholarship to Queen's College, Cambridge, where he read English literature and joined the legendary Footlights drama club. That's where he met Hugh Laurie, and the foundation of his creative and eventually financial life was laid. The early 1980s brought the Cellar tapes, followed by There's Nothing to Worry About, and appearances on cult British comedy shows. Fame arrived before money. Projects like A Bit of Fry and Laurie, Jeeves and Wooster, and Blackadder made him a household name in the UK. But financially, these years were more about credibility than accumulation. Respected, not rich. The shift came when Fry began leveraging his intellect as a format, not just a performance. His long-running role as host of QI from 2003 to 2016 became one of his most stable income pillars, with reports estimating he earned between $200,000 and $300,000 per year from the show, and reruns and international licensing continuing to pay long after his departure. Over time, QI alone generated between $14 and $20 million in total value for Fry. Hollywood added another layer through appearances in films like Gosford Park, V for Vendetta, and the Hobbit trilogy, while he became a familiar face on American television through roles in Bones, 24, Live Another Day, The Great Indoors, and later projects like The Sandman, The Dropout, and Heartstopper. These roles didn't define him creatively, but they expanded his earning power globally. Voice work became one of Fry's quiet financial engines. Narrating all 7 British Harry Potter audiobooks earned him an estimated $2 to $5 million, with ongoing royalties still arriving years later. And add to that his work as the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland, Danger Mouse, documentaries, commercials, and audiobooks, and Fry secured a steady, low-visibility income stream that perfectly suited his temperament. Writing transformed wealth into permanence. His autobiographies, novels, and mythological retellings like Mythos, Heroes, and Troy sold millions of copies worldwide, and with typical royalty rates of 10 to 15%, his publishing income alone accumulated into the tens of millions over time. Advertising campaigns with brands like Marks and Spencer, Twinings, Direct Line, and Walker's Crisps, along with keynote speaking fees of $50,000 to $100,000 per event, further diversified his earnings. Then came investments, early stakes in tech startups such as Seatwave, later sold to Ticketmaster, and ventures like Y-Plan and Pushy added millions more. By the time Fry reached his 60s, his income no longer depended on visibility, and royalties, voice work, books, and investments generated an estimated $3 million or more annually. Today, Stephen Fry's net worth sits at around $40 million, a fortune built slowly, thoughtfully, and almost invisibly. And that's where his Norfolk residence comes in. The country home sits quietly in the small village of West Bilney near King's Lynn in Norfolk, an area deeply connected to his childhood and far removed from the pressure of London visibility. This isn't a celebrity escape, it's a thinking space. The property stretches across approximately 5.9 acres of carefully maintained grounds, offering the kind of breathing room rarely associated with someone worth tens of millions of dollars. And from the moment you approach the house, it feels anchored rather than advertised. Georgian architecture sets the tone immediately with symmetrical lines, dignified proportions, and an almost academic sense of balance. High ceilings give every room air and light, while tall sash windows frame the surrounding countryside rather than blocking it out. Original moldings and shutters remain intact, not as museum pieces, but as living elements of the house's rhythm. Inside, 5 spacious double bedrooms define the private quarters, including 3 full suites that combine traditional elegance with modern comfort. The rooms don't shout luxury, they suggest longevity, a home designed to age well, like the books Fry writes, and the ideas he prefers. What truly defines the interior are the 4 separate living rooms, each one serving a different mood. One invites long conversations, another feels suited for reading and quiet thought. Another opens easily for entertaining, and together they allow the house to shift personality depending on the day, the season, or the number of people inside. A south-facing conservatory provides the home's most contemporary moment, bathed in natural light and bridging the Georgian structure with modern sensibility, creating a space that feels equally suited for morning writing sessions or slow afternoon reflections. The glass doesn't compete with the architecture, it complements it, letting the countryside become part of the interior experience. Beyond the main residence, a separate 2-bedroom guest house adds another 1,457 square feet of living space, ideal for visitors, extended family, or simply distance when needed. An understated luxury rarely discussed, but deeply valued. Additional outbuildings offer flexible use, whether for storage, workshops, or creative overflow, without disrupting the estate's calm. Outside, a heated swimming pool sits comfortably within the landscape, paired with a thoughtfully designed pool house that feels less like a resort feature and more like a natural extension of the home. This property explains Stephen Fry better than any interview ever could. When wealth arrived, he didn't buy louder surroundings. He bought time, silence, and space. In London, Fry owned an apartment in the SW1 borough close to Westminster. Not a grand residence, but a strategic city base near political institutions, broadcasters, and cultural centers. Between 2015 and 2016, he and his husband Elliot Spencer purchased a $1.8 million home in the Hollywood Hills, built in 1920s Spanish style with arched lines, warm tones, and hillside views. Just as deliberately as he chooses where to live, Stephen Fry has been selective about where he gives his time, money, and voice, quietly supporting causes that reflect his values rather than his visibility. He doesn't simply donate, he explains, advocates and lends credibility to causes that depend on public understanding as much as funding. That instinct was clear in 2008, when Fry appeared in a film produced by the Free Software Foundation to mark the 25th anniversary of the GNU project, breaking down the principles of software freedom for a general audience and explaining why open systems matter, how Linux and GNU empower users, and why control over information shapes modern society. During Comic Relief's 2011 campaign, he became one of the celebrity faces behind a new flavor of Walkers, crisps called Stephen Fry Up, a tongue-in-cheek nod to a full English breakfast that was humorous, self-aware, and effective, raising money while keeping the tone accessible. In 2014, Fry contributed to one of London's most visible charity projects by designing a Paddington Bear statue ahead of the Paddington film release. And the statue was later auctioned to raise funds for the NSPCC, blending creativity, culture, and child protection into a single public gesture. Environmental work remains one of Fry's most sustained commitments. Chairman of the Great Fen Project since 2006, he's supported large-scale habitat restoration in eastern England, and since 2009, he served as vice chairman of Fauna and Flora International, one of the world's oldest conservation organizations. Fry has consistently spoken in favor of climate action, openly criticizing climate change denial and expressing support for groups like Extinction Rebellion, even when those positions proved controversial. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Fry turned familiarity into support. In 2020, he appeared alongside Prince William in a Blackadder-themed sketch for The Big Night In, a BBC charity program raising funds for comic relief and children in need. And the sketch offered relief during lockdown while directing attention and donations to those in need. In 2021, Fry narrated a short film for Cambridge Children's Hospital, lending his voice to support pediatric healthcare at a critical moment. Since 2005, he's been a patron of Listening Books, a UK audiobook charity that provides access to literature for people who cannot read standard print due to illness, disability, or learning differences. A cause that aligns perfectly with his belief that language should never be a barrier. He doesn't simplify the world for applause. He tries to make it more understandable, and that same honesty, complexity, and commitment to truth continues beyond public causes, shaping the most personal parts of his life. Fry has long been openly gay, addressing his sexuality with the same wit that defines his public persona. When once asked about it, he joked that it began at birth when he looked back at his mother and thought, "This is the last time I'll look up one of those." Humor for Fry has always been a shield, but also a bridge. For 15 years, he was in a relationship with Daniel Cohen, and when that relationship ended in 2010, Fry eventually met comedian Elliot Spencer. The two married on January 17, 2015, in a quiet ceremony that reflected Fry's preference for intimacy over spectacle. Friendship has always mattered deeply to him. Fry counts King Charles III, then Prince Charles, among his friends, and attended the royal wedding to Camilla Parker Bowles in 2005. But his closest and most enduring bond is with Hugh Laurie. The two met at Cambridge, built careers together, and remained inseparable through decades of success, with Fry serving as best man at Laurie's wedding and godfather to his children. A reminder that some relationships outlast fame, money, and geography. Away from public life, Fry's habits are understated. Vegetarian since 2017, devoted cricket fan, and loyal supporter of Norwich City Football Club, with genuine loyalty rather than celebrity distance. These details matter because they show consistency. But the defining element of Fry's personal life has been his mental health. Living with bipolar disorder, he's spoken about it openly, most notably in the Emmy Award-winning documentary Stephen Fry, The Secret Life of the Manic Depressive, and his honesty has been rare and at times uncomfortable. Fry has attempted suicide multiple times and suffered a severe mental breakdown in 1995, during which he disappeared for several days, later admitting that had he not allowed himself the option to vanish, he might not have survived. Rather than retreat from that history, Fry confronted it publicly, becoming president of the mental health charity Mind and using his platform to normalize conversations around depression, bipolar disorder, and suicide. His advocacy isn't abstract, it's personal, informed by experience rather than theory. In early 2018, Fry faced another test when he announced that he'd undergone surgery for prostate cancer, resulting in the removal of his prostate gland and 11 lymph nodes, and he spoke candidly about the diagnosis and recovery, treating it not as tragedy, but as another fact of survival. If you enjoyed this deeper look into Stephen Fry's life, his career, his wealth, his homes, and the honesty behind it all, your support truly keeps this channel alive. Please like the video, subscribe, and share it with anyone who appreciates thoughtful stories beyond fame and headlines.